The O-Zone.
Welcome to the O-Zone Podcast with Jaguars senior writer John Oehser.
All right, welcome to this week's O-Zone Podcast, getting it posted a little later this week so we can talk about, guess what, OTAs. And I'm joined here by Kainani Stevens, as usual. We had Duff in last week, so big bar for you to clear today.
I can only hope to be marginally as good as Duff.
And I can tell you, I doubt either of us will be as good as Duff because he's outstanding. So, and then we'll be joined later on by Jaguars linebacker Ventrell Miller, and he'll obviously be good. He's a great story right now. So, 6 minutes, 3 cold takes. Talk about OTAs.
We were joking about this on JagZam. I always forget what the O is, so I had to write it down to remind myself. It's organized team activities, but because they're voluntary, in my mind, it's always optional team activities. Okay. You can just put in whatever words you want.
They actually should call them that, and that would be better.
Because they are optional at the end of the day. But we've been seeing great turnout, and I think that was important as well. I did want to mention, because I know we had open media on the first day of OTAs. Josh Hines-Allen wasn't at those, but he's been here since as a part of OTAs, and we've seen him a ton in the offseason program. But also just a huge turnout. I mean, there's very limited people that haven't been involved so far in the offseason.
Yeah, and that's become less of a thing over time. And I think the media still tends to make a big deal of it because a lot of us are older media guys, so we remember sort of when it used to be a big issue. And especially in the South, I can't really remember. I guess there was a few years ago where Jalen didn't come for one of the OTAs, and he was notably absent. But beyond that, guys with the Jags have usually Fred Taylor, Maurice Jones-Drew back in the day didn't go some, but this turnout this year is again outstanding, and I guess I wouldn't expect anything different because so many guys live here, and I guess if it was a bad turnout, it would be news. Mm-hmm. I'm not surprised with this bunch, the way they approach with the energy around here right now. I would have been surprised if there was any weirdness. And
it's such a nice facility. You're talking about Florida, where they're here most of the time anyway. If they're not here, they're working out somewhere else. The way the NFL is right now, there's very few people that aren't fully football, all year round. They take a month off maybe after the season, but they're working out even if they're not here. They're just working out with their guy. So,
and Josh has worked out previously in Arizona, and guess what? He hit some of his best years have come from after working out in Arizona. So there are certain guys. I think sometimes fans don't necessarily see what we do inside buildings about how certain guys work. I could go from locker room clean out day in January until week 1 and not see Josh, and it would never occur to me that he wouldn't be ready.
Yeah, you would still feel fine about it. He's not someone you're concerned on.
So there are some guys who struggle more with that, but Josh is very internally focused. So I think the big news was on Tuesday after practice, we saw BTJ have a couple of catches downfield, Brian Thomas Jr. I thought it was more significant that Liam talked about that some, and that Liam talked about the need and the developing chemistry between him and Trevor, and acknowledging that, hey, we need to get deep more. BTJ is a guy who can get deep. So I thought the fact that Liam put some credence in, hey, they're looking good together, that mattered to me more than actually seeing it on field.
I think this team, more than others, they play similar to how they practice in the terms of we saw BTJ struggle last year, and we kind of saw him struggling in camp even, right? That wasn't necessarily coming out of the blue. We were like, oh, this isn't really coming together. Maybe he'll turn it on when the lights come on for the game. And Trevor as well, when weeks that Trevor doesn't practice, he doesn't play his best, right? So we've seen and maybe that's just the new generation in general, but practicing a little bit what we've seen is how it ends up coming out on the field. Specifically now with Liam's offense, it's very complicated. You need to be there and know what's going on if you're going to be involved in it on game day. So for us early on to see Brian Thomas Jr. and Trevor working well together, that's great, because at times last year, even in training camp, there was a lot of concern. You could see visibly Brian Thomas Jr. was getting frustrated at times during training camp. So to see him being successful, looking fluid, running, and not seeing any visible frustration, just that chemistry together, that's a positive thing, especially this time of year.
And I hope and think, I like BTJ. I don't know him as well as I know some players, but he's a guy who wants to be good. I can't imagine last year that there wasn't some, I guess maybe internal pressure of, I've got to have 1,200 yards again. I've got to have 10 touchdowns. I expect this. He can be a really, really, really good player for this team and have him, Jacoby, Parker, all catching around 850 and 6 or 7 touchdowns. I mean, I think this team may be at its best if all of those guys have similar numbers, big games periodically, and force defenses to pay attention to them one game, open up something for somebody else the next game. I think that's where, if BTJ can prove again that he is a legitimate deep threat that you have to cover, which I think he will do, then I think this offense gets that much better. I think it's what they're working on now and in the offseason. So Liam also said Tuesday they will have joint practices, probably one joint practice, it sounds like, before all 3 preseason games. I think that's interesting because of how it means he will handle preseason.
Yes.
He made pretty clear, I think, at the owners' meetings that there may not be many starters playing in games, that he's going to lean into that whole idea of we can get the best reps in practice and let the preseason games be about younger guys making the team, about guys we're evaluating. And again, who knows how he'll feel as training camp goes on. He may see something, hey, I need to see these guys in a game. But he wanted more last year, and he's got the maximum out this year.
We knew that was his kind of game plan going into the preseason. He says he was able to figure that out with the scheduling, and he's not the only one. A lot of coaches feel they can get more out of a joint practice because they can control it.
Sure.
So they can have the situations they want. They can run the plays they want to against, certain looks and whatnot, and they can both get benefit out of that more than they would out of a game because there's only so much you can control, and also takes some of the injury risk out of it. Obviously, it's still football, but a little bit of maybe concerns of getting hurt in a preseason game. So if you can control it, get the same information out of a practice, instead not having to do it in a preseason game, like, it makes a lot of sense. Also, I think you always get a little bit some extra when they're in a practice against not their own teammates, right? And it's a different kind of practice. So I really do see the value in that. And it brings a little more competition, so that way when the season comes around, you're already ready to rock.
Yeah, and I think it's sometimes tough for fans because you see a preseason game on TV, and I fall victim to it too. Just because they're in uniforms and a helmet in the preseason game makes you think somehow this is more important or better preparation than practice. And I think fans only see those. So if they get to the point, hey, we haven't seen Trevor play in the preseason and the regular season starting, they think that means he hasn't gotten the reps because they haven't seen it. But I would be surprised, I guess, if in 5 or 10 years, because I think they'll go to 2 preseason games at some point when they go to 18, that most teams don't play their frontline guys. I think you will see a general feeling of, we can get this done in practice where it's safe. So I think this is the trend going forward. So Travis Hunter spoke this week.
He did.
At the Planet Fitness event. He was clearly involved and enthusiastic on Tuesday. Any thoughts on Travis?
He's always enthusiastic, right? Like, that's kind of his personality. We see him at practice. We see him in the building, so it's a little bit different for us. I know people haven't seen him in a while because he got hurt halfway through the season, haven't heard from him in a while. So, but he's out there every day, even in OTAs. He's not fully practicing, but he's basically in the huddle with Trevor, hearing the play call, and then he just steps out. Other than that, he's involved as he can be. And I think, obviously, unfortunately, he was hurt in his first season, but it's given him some time to get in the playbook. And for someone that's going to play 2 positions, you got to learn the whole playbook. So it gives him some extra time to study.
Yeah, and I think that will continue to be, like we've talked about it on and off the air. I think the reality is Travis Hunter will be a big storyline in September. because I don't know. I have no idea how much he'll play in the preseason, and who knows. But we really don't know what it'll look like yet. There's a lot of belief within the team that it's going to be exactly what they thought it was going to be coming in. But with only 7 games last year, I don't know that they ever got to their best practices with Travis Hunter. Not best practices on the field, but how they really want that to look. So I think they're still working through it a little bit. But everything, my understanding around, I've talked to people around here, is everything is big time hopes for defense, but with no thought that he's not going to contribute offensively. I don't know how many plays that'll be, but I think he's going to matter a great deal on both sides of the ball. So
they're very vocal about it. He's going to play both sides of the football.
Yeah,
they're not backing down on that yet.
Yeah. So without further ado, let's get to Ventrell Miller with the Ozone Podcast interview. All right, welcome into the Ozone Podcast interview with Jaguars linebacker Ventrell Miller. I'm excited about this. I'm probably more excited than you are, but I appreciate you joining us during the off season. I know you got a lot of other stuff going on, and I'll be honest. When I was trying to think about what to talk to you about, I kept coming back to perseverance with you. And when I think of you, that's what I think of. Am I reading that right? I mean, there's been a lot of perseverance and a lot of overcoming from you in your career.
Most definitely. I just remember being hurt a lot, I guess, in college and stuff. So my word was always being resilient.
Yeah.
So always, whenever you're going through hard things, challenging things, keep your head down and keep grinding, getting through things and being resilient. Don't let it affect you too much. And
even in the NFL, you've gotten your chance and you played, and then last year going in co-starter with Devin, and then he plays well, and maybe not quite the role you wanted last year, kept playing through it, and now an opportunity. So even in the NFL, you've continued to just sort of, I guess it's a horrible cliche because people say it all the time, but you've been about staying the course and just doing what you can control, right?
Right. That's the most important thing. You always got to control what you can control. Don't let the outside things impact your attitude when you're coming in the building, because when you do things like that, you're just not going to get better. So if you're dwelling on stuff like that. So always keeping a positive attitude with things, and like you say, coming out trying to get better each and every day.
How many times, either Florida or at the Jags, there's been times where you could have just said, you know what, that's it, right? I mean, As a rookie, you come in, didn't get a chance because of the injury. Florida, I mean, has there ever been times where you thought, what am I doing? Or
I wouldn't necessarily say that. I don't know. I'm a football guy. Been playing for so long, so really quitting never really is an option for me. But I mean, like even at Florida, I broke my foot in my last year at Florida, the second game of the season. But pushing through that, just knowing this was my last season. So I've always been a pretty tough guy. So with things like that, so. I don't know. I'm always trying to persevere and do what I can to help the team, for sure.
What is this opportunity at hand now? Going into year 4, what does it mean to? It feels like it might be the right opportunity at the right time for you.
Right. Man, I'm excited for the year. Also knowing nothing is really handed to you, so I got to go out and work and earn whatever I get. So, but I'm excited for the year. I feel like things falling into place for me a little bit, getting to know the system better, second year in. So I'm feeling confident and comfortable going into this year.
I've got to ask you, for people who are watching, where did you get the shirt? How long have you had it? I probably is it original, because I may have had that shirt 35 years ago.
Nah, for sure. They done told me. Brandon told me he actually had that shirt when he was like 5 years old, and it was super big on him. But it was a vintage. It's basically a vintage shirt, but I got it from a guy I know named Jesse. He had a little vintage little shop, but ended up getting this shirt because I don't know, one of the little Jaguars vintage shirts. So this was the one I picked out. Because
to date me, I was actually working at the newspaper when that headline came out. So you're talking to an old man, and I'm talking to a young man. So for you, it's vintage. For me, it's just part of my life.
Right. Okay, for sure.
Tell me about the mood of the building right now around this team. It's, it would seem like there is tremendous optimism based on last year, but there's also a tone that Liam's setting of, hey, last year is last year, and you've been around the league long enough to know what happened last year, be it 4-13 or 13-4, doesn't really matter.
Right.
I guess the question is, how much is that message getting through to you guys?
Oh, for sure. That's the message that's being preached, and I think everybody's buying into that. Like you said, it doesn't matter what you did last year. Everybody's coming out to work, and like you said, trying to build from last year, not necessarily looking back at last year, but how can we get better? Like, it's no point of dwelling on what you did last year, but staying focused on how can we get better this year. Doesn't matter what's going on. Let's like I said, put the cleats on and let's do it this year.
I got to ask you, you went in last year as basically the co-starter with Devin, and then he has an all-pro year. Everybody sort of knows his story. Not that you needed confidence, but does that give you any confidence of, hey, this guy's an all-pro, and we were right there together. I'm sure most of the season you're playing in situations where he's not. You can be that. Right.
Definitely. I know I've always been pretty confident in my abilities and what I could bring, attribute to the team. But I feel like my coaches also do a great job of keep instilling confidence in me, whether that's Kent or Coach Tim as well. So, like you said, they always want me to come out and get better regardless of the situation or whatever. Like, they always want the best out of me. So coaching me hard, I feel like that also raises the bar for me being confident.
I may have asked this the last time you did this because it's such a striking feature about you. But even when you were a rookie and hurt and you get a chance, even when times are tough, you never see you not smiling around the locker room. Is that fake? Is that just who you are? Or from what you've told me before, you just love being around football, and you're going to take that attitude.
No, for sure. Well, I definitely feel it's the joy of the Lord, for real. But I don't know. I always come in to work with a smile on my face. It's a blessing to be able to do what I'm doing. It's a dream come true. So why would I be mad? You know what I'm saying? But even going through tough times, I feel like it's important to have a positive mindset through things. Like I said, even the camaraderie, being around your teammate, they always bring a joy to my face. So I'm always smiling, but that's just me though, for sure.
Ever been a time in the last 3 or 4 years where you wondered, is this going to happen? Meaning, get the opportunity, sort of have the path clear.
One more time, what'd you say?
Well, in the last 4 years, tough times. You've had the opportunities there. Have you ever wondered if you would really get that shot to be the starter to go in?
Okay. I mean, I guess that's my mindset every year, for real. But I don't know. I always thought it'd come. Not sure when, but like I said, it's always the mindset, just staying ready so you don't got to get ready. So even times when I get thrown in, being ready, so it's like no drop off when I'm coming in. So I always, like I said, keeping that positive mindset of trying to stay ready.
When you guys on defense talk about next year, what's the goal? Where do you need to get better, and how good do you guys think this unit can be? Because there's a lot there.
Mm-hmm. To me personally, I mean, I feel like we're gonna be pretty good. That's just me personally. Before the cleats come on, but I don't know. I feel like we just got a good group. Everybody's really connected, and I feel like teams always do good when they have a great bond for real. But like I said, I'm excited for the year. Everybody's working hard. Everybody's getting better, and just coming like it's the second year in the system for a lot of guys. Right. So I feel like we're gonna be a lot better than last year. And then I know we was good at stopping the run. We had like the number 1 run defense, but it's like I said, continue to build on those things and stuff like that. As far as like when we see like we messed up, may have fit it wrong, but trying to get that better for this year. So.
Got you. Liam said a couple times in the offseason, maybe in James, that obviously nothing guaranteed in terms of role next year, right. But the fact that they didn't go out and heavily address that position, the weak side backer or the outside linebacker, should give you confidence that, hey, we believe that you can get the job done. Do you feel that? Did that give you any confidence?
Yeah, I would say so. Definitely felt the confidence that they had in me coming into this year. But I feel like regardless, the mindset is still the same. You go out and compete to try to win a spot. So that's the mindset coming in. But it's definitely, I felt like it helped. Well, I guess it relieved a little nerve,
Sure.
I guess, a little bit. But like I said, I'm still competing, still trying to.
Well, because the outside talk, everybody outside, they've got to address this. They lost
Right.
Devin, etc. And it was almost like people forgot that during camp and even during part of the season, it was you guys right there.
Right.
So people assumed it was going to be this, quote, position of need. Mm-hmm. And the Jaguars didn't really look at it that way. They said, hey, we've got a guy who can do this.
Right. Like you said, that's just the confidence that I feel like the coaching staff had in me. So definitely happy about that. But like I said, I'm going out and trying to prove people wrong.
Right.
That's my mindset toward it.
I assume in your mind you haven't reached your ceiling yet.
Nah.
That's the biggest smile of the day so far.
Nah, definitely. Like I said, I'm excited for the year. I'm excited to really show people what I can really do. And like I said, this is before the season starts, so I definitely got to earn the spot first. But like I said, I'm just excited, man. Just to show everybody like what y'all gonna have in the linebacker.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
A lot to prove.
Yeah, definitely. Going on my contract year, a lot to prove, a lot to show for. For me, I always had the mindset of I want to be the best in the league. Right. It's all pro, so I'm still keeping that mindset and trying to prove it this year.
Gotcha. Who do you lean on most? Josh, Trayvon, anybody like that?
Foye? Yeah, Foye has been a great guy in the locker room and position group. Definitely a mentor. You can ask him whatever, any questions I have. He's always there to answer questions or how he see things. So he's been a great mentor to have, an older guy that just played a lot of football to really lean on. And
I got you.
I say coaches also do a good job with that as well.
You've done this before, so you may remember the last thing we do here is the Ozone 5. It's 5 quick questions. Mm-hmm. They can be fun. Ventrell, what was your last binge watch? My last binge watch?
I would say it's a new little episode. They got a new season out, but it's going week by week, so I ain't been able to binge watch it. But I binge watched like the first through season. It's like I don't know. It's like a what I want to say, like zombie type. But I don't know. I don't really know how to describe it. It's like nah. So it's like everybody gets stuck in this one place. Come around, get stuck in this one place. But I guess it's like it's not really. It's real, but like I don't know how to describe it. But it's like zombies, but you get stuck in this place and you gotta every day you gotta try to survive.
Okay. Podcast or music on the way in?
Music.
Okay.
Music for sure.
Last song this morning.
What was my last song this morning? I think it was probably some G Herbo.
Okay.
I forgot what the song was this morning, but I'm probably listening to her coming in here though.
You know, it's probably not my bag, right?
That probably ain't. That's the little younger generation for sure.
I got you. Sport other than football. I may have asked this before, but sport other than football that you were good at. That's right. You were just football, you said.
Just football. That's really crazy. Yeah, I didn't really play any other organized sports for except
that's
football.
Right. You all just loved it from the start.
Yeah, from the start. Like I said, I played football year round, so I was playing football twice a year in the summer and in the winter.
First team name then?
First team name as far as
first team you ever played for?
Oh, the first team I actually played for was the Jaguars, which is crazy, I guess. But I played for the Jaguars. Next year I went to the Bucks, and then
Lakeland.
Yeah, Lakeland, Florida.
Okay, but what league? Shout them out.
Shout out Duffield. It's no longer a league no more, but it was called Duffield. But
there's some talent coming out of Lakeland.
Definitely some talent coming out.
Yeah.
But I'll say the Duff League was a little overlooked. I feel like everybody went to the City League, like the Hurricanes and stuff like that. But I mean, it was like we played on the same field. Every team played on the same field. We had like a bunch of different teams out there on the field at once during practice and stuff. But
I got you.
It was a little slept on, but we got some guys that came out of that for sure.
Okay, back when I was covering high schools, Lakeland was okay in football, but Kathleen was it in basketball.
Yeah, for sure.
They always played Reebalt up here.
For sure.
Big time program. Mm-hmm. So, your biggest influence?
Biggest influence, I would say Ray Lewis. Definitely a guy coming from Kathleen High School. And just did it at the high level. So that was definitely motivation for me.
Did he come around?
Yeah, a little bit. When I was younger. I actually had a ceremony, and I think it was my junior year. I went crazy, but I was getting basically awarded by the newspaper. They awarded me an award, but he basically was the one to award me the award.
I got you.
That was probably like the last time I seen him. But big motivation though. Like I said, it's a guy that did it at the highest level to come from where he come from. So it was just good for me to see because I could see it can be done.
I got you.
Yeah.
Now, the last question I had was why your number, but you told me not a real connection to your number.
Mm-hmm.
So with this big trend, everybody always wants to change their numbers.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about trying to change it, or you're like, no, I'm sticking with 51?
I never thought about trying to change my number. I feel like I said, I had it since college, so that was the first number they put me in. But I don't know, I always felt like it's the player that makes the number, so that's my standpoint on it for sure.
Fair enough. Ventrell, I'll let you get back to it. Thank you so much for joining the Ozone podcast today. I appreciate it, buddy.
All right, no worries. Thank you for having me.
I like Ventrell. God,
Who doesn't?
I mean, he's
so animated. You always know when he's talking too. He's a very specific pitch of scream, and I always can hear pretty much anywhere in the building.
And one thing he didn't get fully into when we talked, so we can get into it because that's what we're here for. And I got the impression from talking to Ventrell that right now he is very focused on this is a big opportunity for him.
Yeah.
He knows that his starting opportunity is not guaranteed. It's there for the taking. There's a lot of guys at that position. So he really didn't want to really go, yeah, I'm the guy. He wasn't really that in the interview. But it's interesting how he has managed to maintain his optimism, his joy, which he does walk around with some joy. And he's been through some stuff.
Absolutely.
You know, and
his Achilles
he's worked
injury.
to get here. Even last year, you know, he earned a co-starting position, and then really through no fault of his own, Devin Lloyd just started playing and playing so well that you couldn't not get him on the you couldn't not take him off the field. That had to be tough because he thought he was going to play more than he did last year, but he never seems to let it derail him, I guess is what I'm getting at.
I don't think you could ask for more perfect situation for him this season because it's really, okay, go out and prove it. We have faith in you that you can do this job. We haven't gone and gotten anybody because we were overly concerned. It's his job to lose, in my opinion, at this point. And from what we've seen so far with this regime, they give people the opportunity to earn their spots and keep it, right? So even, they inherited the running back situation last year. There was 4 guys going into camp, didn't know what that was going to look like. And Travis Etienne bought into the program and excelled.
Very good analogy.
And did amazing in the offense last year. This is an opportunity. And even Devin Lloyd last year, they put him in a new system where he could have success. And he was amazing, got himself a brand new contract. So I think this is an opportunity for Ventrell Miller. They're giving him that. And not that he hasn't earned it. He's going to need to earn it, but he has that opportunity. They believe in him. They think he can play this role, and this season will be big for him to prove them right or wrong. But I think right is probably, I think he can do it.
I don't know if he'll have 5 interceptions the way Devin Lloyd did. I
think from that position, that's hard to expect year to year.
But I don't think when you ask people inside the building at the end of this year, meaning at the end of 2026, I'll be surprised if they say, boy, we really dropped off because we didn't have Devin and it was Ventrell. I think there's every confidence within the building that the defense will be as good or better with Ventrell Miller playing there. He may bring different strengths, but I've never gotten any sense that they're worried about that spot.
No, I don't think so. Let's do some Ozone questions, close this out.
Fantastic.
All right, we got James from Titusville. He says, which year do you think the Jaguars have drafted the best in franchise history? You weren't here for all of them, but you were here for a lot of them.
Yeah, I mean, the ones I was here for, I think most people would say it's 96 when they drafted Kevin Hardy, Aaron Beasley, and Tony Brackens were their first 3 draft picks.
I mean, not too bad there.
And then in 16, they drafted Jalen Ramsey, Miles Jack, and Unique Ngakoue. And both of those trios sort of had the same effect on the defense. The 90s trio had a little more sustainability. The 2016 trio was a little more interesting in the locker room.
A little more of a flash and a lot of personality.
But both good players. I mean, both drafts of good players, and both led to certain levels of success that you probably wouldn't have had without them. And look, the 95 draft had a Hall of Famer in it. And when you have a Hall of Famer in your draft,
That skews the draft class a little bit to the better.
Well, yeah. I mean, one thing about the draft that's interesting is everybody picks apart every draft, and if there's one guy who didn't make it, it's a bad draft.
Right.
No draft doesn't have misses. So that's sort of my thoughts on that.
It's closer to baseball where you hit 300 and it's a success.
It's close to that. It's a lot closer than people think.
All right. Theodore from Jacksonville says, how many wins do you see on the schedule this season, and can the Jaguars repeat as division champs?
Well, I chose this one because it's one of about 800 questions like that I get from the time the schedule comes out till the start of the season. I don't necessarily know. I'm not one to go game by game through the schedule and say, okay, they're going to win this, they're going to win this. I'd be surprised looking at the schedule if they're. I think they'll be somewhere 4-2 going into the bye, 4-2, 3-3, because I think it's tough.
And that's the tough part of the schedule too, though. So if you feel like they can get through at 4-2, that's a good team.
And then I think at that point you'll find out about injuries. You'll find out what you are. I think this will be a team like it was last year, whereas the season gets going, I think they will get better and better. And the reason I say that is that's what they did in Tampa when Liam was there the last year. Mm-hmm. He's really good at figuring out, okay, this is what we're doing. This is what we need to do. So you get to the bye with this team with Liam, 3-2, 4-2 in that range. I think his history shows that he can hit the accelerator at that point. So I think I've been saying anywhere between 11-6 and 13-4. Sometimes when I say that, people, you mean they're going to get worse? 11-6 and 13-4 are pretty similar records in the NFL. Get in. I think they'll get in. I think they'll have double-digit wins.
Those are get-in records, and that's what's most important, is making the postseason and going from there.
Yeah. I mean, there'll be panic.
Sure.
When they lose a game,
I'd rather they get 11 wins and win in the first round of the playoffs than have more wins and not.
No doubt.
So that's something to keep an eye on, but we won't know until they play. Our final one from Mailbag is Mark from Archer. He says, why is Jimmy Smith not talked about for the Hall of Fame more?
Well, and with these questions, I knew we were talking a little bit more about immediacy at the top, so it seemed like a good week to get into some history. Jimmy Smith isn't talked about for the Hall of Fame because it's a flawed process. He absolutely should be. He's around here a little more now, and
we've seen him at OTAs
in practice.
This
week. He's working with the receivers a little bit, not necessarily on the field, but he's around a little bit more. And I'm not sure exactly what the role is with the receivers, but it has been great to see him. Mm-hmm. And he, for a while, was a guy who wasn't around here as much as I would have liked, because I love Jimmy. He's one of the best 2 or 3 players this franchise has ever had. He doesn't get the credit that he should because he didn't score a lot of touchdowns compared to some of the other guys. But for when he played, it was for multiple years. It was Jerry Rice and Jimmy Smith, and it was Randy Moss and Jimmy Smith. Jimmy Smith was on a level just below those guys. If you look at his numbers, I think it's 8 of 9 1,000-yard seasons he had in a row. And the one year he didn't get it, he missed 4 games and had 900. I hope someday the people who really are involved with the Hall voting process go back and look at Jimmy. Fred's really overlooked. Jimmy is just as overlooked. He's a Hall of Fame player. Had a Hall of Fame career, and I hope someday he gets his due.
It's tough because, as you mentioned, Fred being overlooked as well. There's always like something, whether it's touchdowns or for Fred, it's Pro Bowls. And I think as we move along, the Pro Bowl is not the same, so maybe that'll shift a little bit. But it's so tough, and a lot of it is marketing and pitching them and the process and getting it to move along. So it's convoluted. It's a little tough, and obviously we feel like some of the guys here really should be recognized more. But
for both of those guys, though,
tough.
And when I talk to Hall voters about that era, what I say is they made 2 AFC Championship games. Fred wasn't around for the first one, but Tony and Jimmy were. They don't make 4 straight playoff appearances, have the best record in 99 without Jimmy Smith. Jimmy Smith's best year was 99 when it was the Jaguars' best year. He had 1,600 yards receiving, and he was as unstoppable that year as any receiver I've been around. And I covered Marvin Harrison when he was a Hall of Famer. Covered Reggie Wayne when he was a Hall of Famer. I think both of those guys are Hall of Famers. Jimmy Smith is in that same world. Had Jimmy played with the Colts, with Peyton Manning in that offense, he's a walk-in Hall of Famer because of the way they played. So, again, I for as long as I cover this league and talk about football, I will say Jimmy Smith's one of the most underrated players of that era. And all you have to do for Jimmy and Fred, talk to the guys who had to play against him.
They'll
because
tell you.
There's a reason teams are good, and you can't stop them. Jimmy Smith and Fred Taylor were the reason the Jaguars were good.
I like these history questions. I have another get to know zone question.
Oh, okay. Get to know zone.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
some people don't want to get to know zone.
Well,
you know?
they time to click off.
Okay.
I tried to tie it in a little bit with, so Ventrell, obviously, I think one of the hardest hitters on this current team. And obviously you've covered the league for a while, so you got to cover it when people were allowed to hit a little bit harder. Yeah. Who's the hardest hitter that you've seen, or what was the hardest hit you've seen in a game?
I think I missed a lot of his career here. Most fans who are listening to this probably covered or probably watched Donovan Darius play. Donovan Darius, the safety for the Jaguars from 99 to I think it was 2008. I didn't cover most of his career. He was hit. He really hit. So he's up there. It's easier to see it from the safety position. Trayvon hits now. I mean,
he does.
He's
not flying in like a bullet, but he'll hit. It's like you hit a wall. I
don't want to get hit by him.
Oh, certainly not.
So Trayvon's up there. Trying to think of guys who played on the 17 team. I'm probably missing somebody off that team. They were a turnover team and a sack team. Tony Bracken's really, maybe not hitting, but played at a high level. Darryl Smith hit hard, and Paz had some hits. I mean, some of the middle linebackers were really good players. But I would say Donovan's the guy in Jaguars lore that stands out. I don't know. It's harder now with the rules to hit as hard as he did at the safety position because they've really tried to bring it in a little bit for player safety. And Donovan, in the time that I saw him play, I don't look at him and say, oh, he was taking advantage of the rules. But most safeties back then played with a little more abandon because there wasn't as much risk in terms of penalties and fines as there is now. And
they wanted to set that tone of making you scared to go over the middle.
Yeah.
Think about it before you did it.
That's harder to do now. They've changed the game a little bit with that. So I got to go Donovan with that one.
Cool. Good to know.
And that's it. Thank you, Kai, for coming to the Ozone podcast. And again, thanks very much to Ventrell Miller, who I think people enjoy listening to. And that's the Ozone podcast for the week.